It's the Schumacher brothers' home race, but anything could happen now as we head for Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. Live.
Formula One on ITV, sponsored by Toyota.
Williams have been super strong all weekend. Is this where Montoya capitalises? Is it pole? Yes, it is! His first pole position of the 2003 season. Fantastic.
Juan Pablo Montoya's been on a hot streak since hitting the jackpot at Monte Carlo. Ferrari red's the dominant colour at Hockenheim, but Michael Schumacher has to be an outsider at his home German Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon. Now, we're used to the heat at Hockenheim, but this year's temperatures, well, they are something else. On the track, it's touched 50 degrees Celsius, close to 130 in old money. Current air temperature, 33 degrees and rising rapidly. So tyre wear and engine durability, the key factors for the cars. But Tony, for the drivers, a survival of the fittest, really.
An extreme test. It's going to be extreme sport, really. And I think that we can put the fittest as being Michael Schumacher. Coulthard not be far behind him, and then Webber as well. But they're all going to be tested as well as the components and the tyres, as you say.
Yeah, throughout the weekend, the BMW Williams pair, Montoya and Ralf Schumacher, with those Michelin tyres, have revelled in the heat.
Well, you think about it, you know, Juan Pablo Montoya had those 7 pole positions last year, and he's failed to do it this year, until now. And all this hard work they've done on the aerodynamics, and they said they'd be strong here. There's Gerhard Berger watching, Mario Tyson, technical director. Out came Ralf Schumacher, last in the second qualifying, the final qualifying session. Could he steal pole position from Juan Pablo Montoya? He's been so good this year. No, not quite. He had understeer in the last 2 corners, but it's still their 3rd front row of the year for the Williams pair.
But right behind them, Rubens Barrichello, Silverstone winner on the Ferrari, on the softer Bridgestone tyres, and fancying his chances big time, Tony.
Yeah, it's interesting. He said, I'm aiming for the top step of the podium. Now, he's done slightly different way again to Michael Schumacher. He's gone on slightly softer tyres, set up slightly different, and he reckons this car this year is slightly harder to set up as well, but very pleased with that. He's on fire again, isn't he, for second race in a row?
Certainly not on fire. David Coulthard, we're featuring his McLaren team, and David just making the top 10 in the spare car, though.
It's a shame because they'd been messing around with the electronic differential, and it locked up going into Sachs curve, and it pitched his race car off into the barriers. Forced to take the spare car, he's not as comfortable. And that's very difficult for a racing driver when you've been honing your race car, especially, you know, for the Grand Prix. Then you have to take to the spare, and you're not quite confident in it.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher did it here last year. We had a sort of post-title winning party, didn't we? He doesn't fancy his chances this afternoon. He's keeping a very close eye on Kimi Räikkönen alongside him.
What he and the team have been doing, Jim, is just focusing on the race performance, knowing that the heat and the tyre situation is against them. The balance of the car in the middle section for qualifying for him wasn't particularly good, but he's really concentrating on that. Whereas Kimi Räikkönen, for example, was quite pleased the fact that he got into 5th place. He was struggling with a bit of understeer as well. But Schumacher's alongside him and he's on the dirty side of the grid, so he's happy with that.
Yeah, Raikkonen, one of 8 Michelin runners in the top 10, just chat us quietly through the grid, could you?
Juan Pablo Montoya, of course, it's his first pole of the year, and he's very confident indeed. But he's alongside him is his teammate, that's their third front row. And Ralf Schumacher has not failed to finish at Hockenheim. Rubens Barrichello on the softer tyres, he said he knows how to nurse them in this heat. Jarno Trulli continuing his form at Renault in 4th place. In 5th place, we have Kimi Raikkonen. He's looking for a good start to get ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher says, look, over the distance, my car and my tyres will be good, so watch out. Panis, another top 10, happy with that. Alonso, straight line speed, not so good in the Renault, down in 8th place. 9th place, D'Amato equals the team's best joint qualifying. They did that in Canada. Coulthard 10th, having to take that spare after that crash. Webber overdid it, he said, lost 4 tenths. But Fisichella's got the updated Ford engine. He's quite confident. Villeneuve, lively BAR Honda, is on the harder tyres. Frentzen ahead of his younger teammate Heidfeld yet again. And Wilson pushed too hard, not quite used to those Michelins yet, so he's down in 16th place. 17th Button, the temperatures went up, the tail came out on the BAR. The same thing happened to Furman in the other Jordan. 19th place for Verstappen on the harder tyres. And quite close to him on his Grand Prix debut, the Dane Nicolas Chiesa, good job in 20th in the Minardi.
Thanks, Tony. Just to mark your card, Hockenheim is south of Frankfurt in central Germany. There's another new grandstand this year. The flat-out straights through the forest are no more. But with government and commercial assistance, bit by bit, the famous circuit is being completely overhauled. Well, hang on to your seats for the next minute and a quarter, because we are on board with this afternoon's pole sitter, Juan Pablo Montoya.
Let's take a look at how and why Montoya stole the pole here in Hockenheim. 185 miles an hour down into turn 1. Braking at 60 metres before the corner, constantly on the throttle, even through the apex, and already on his way down to 2. Quite cautious here, braking at the 100-metre ball, but you've got to stay nice and tight on the right-hand side. The left kink comes immediately ahead of you, now building up to the higher speed around this racetrack, something over 190 miles an hour. Down to the Spitz hairpin. Engine singing nicely, braking in a straight line. Crosses his arms in the middle. You'd fail your driving test for that, but that's the only way in a Formula 1 car. You have to keep your hands on the wheel. No space to move. The right flat kink then into the Mercedes-Benz corner. Really supremely neat and tidy, carrying good speed through the apex, not using too much curb, and still able to keep some throttle on all the way through that corner. The Motordrome ahead. Let's watch this. 165 down to 110, and again, always on the throttle pedal. Sachs curve, you must stay low. That's where all the grip is here, and better traction through the exit. Ride those curbs gently. Now the back end of the car wants to step out, so don't attack too much. And this is where he got it for me over Ralf Schumacher. Again, keeping throttle on all the way through the final corner. Pole position and a great lap from Montoya.
Pole sitter Montoya's been piling up the points. He is the man in form, with 40 in the last 5 races. The Colombian third in this very exciting Drivers' Championship behind Raikkonen. He's never finished here, and Michael Schumacher, his younger brother, very much in the title race. Barrichello won a Grand Prix for the first time here. We'll be talking to David Coulthard later. Alonso and Trulli both in a position to score for Renault. How will the German Grand Prix pan out? Let's get the views of our commentators.
Well, you know, the way single-lap qualifying works nowadays, it's more or less the first lap of the Grand Prix, isn't it? And yesterday, going into qualifying, Ferrari realised they were on the back foot. They tried to put Rubens up the front to control the pace of the race, but it hasn't really worked for them, has it?
To a certain extent, no. They're not ahead of the Williams, but the pace of the Williams is so strong. But at least Rubens got half a chance down to the first corner to seize the initiative, especially if he's a little bit lighter. But crucially, he is ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, Michael Schumacher's main contender at the moment, of course.
Now, you've got a feeling that Michael will make them work very hard for this. There's a suspicion he's running with more fuel, he's on a harder tyre, so race-wise, he's in terrific shape, isn't he? And I guess Williams must be haunted by Montreal, where they were 1-2 at the start and Michael nicked it from them.
Yes, they threw that race away, and it was crucial then. It's even more crucial now. The two Williams drivers on a massive charge got a chance of the World Championship. They cannot afford to let that happen today. But I do think the Michelins are going to take a little 5-lap holiday where they're not really working too well. That's the Ferrari's main opportunity to seize the initiative. And I also think the Bridgestones will hang on better and longer through the stint. But the pace of the Williams is so strong, they should have the upper hand.
Well, we'll see. It's certainly pretty warm here, and that's going to be a factor too.
fact, the temperature has risen to 34 degrees. Well, since the British Grand Prix, Jaguar have taken on Justin Wilson from Minardi to partner the Australian Mark Webber. Wilson in his first season in Formula One, and he's still searching for his first point as well. The W formation, they're teammates now, but they have been bitter rivals in the past. Wilson arriving with a sensational performance in qualifying one.
Justin Wilson on his debut for Jaguar. Has he got himself amongst the big boys? Yes, he has! He's faster than both Ferraris.
When you sat in the car waiting to go, you think, this could go one way or the other. It could end up not improving, doing the same time as what you do in the practice and feeling disappointed, or you could find a few tenths. As it happened, found more than that.
After Friday's heroics, Wilson bumped back to earth in final qualifying, lining up a slightly disappointing 16th, 1.3 seconds adrift of Mark Webber. Statistics aside, the fact remains, though, that Webber has a teammate of real potential. As he's well aware, Mark has first-hand experience of Wilson's raw speed from their battles back in 2001.
We raced in 2000 together. We're main rivals for the championship. We always got on very well. I wouldn't say we're best mates, but we get on very well as competitors, and it's very civilised to talk, and it'd be interesting to see how we can work together now.
Say you're main rivals, you beat him.
Yeah, I won the championship that year. That's what you get into. It's quite a good season for myself, but here it's going to be quite different because Mark has got the experience. He's got an extra year in Formula One.
We're both professional guys. I think we'll try and do the best for Jaguar. We've had a really good season up until now, and it'd be nice to finish on a high. Hopefully he can do a really good job for us and get some points, and I'm really expecting him to do that.
My aim is to get as close as possible to Mark and try and just support him, and like I said before, if there's anything to be picked up, hopefully we can both do that.
You did have a brilliant rivalry in Formula 3000. Do you think there's any chance that any of that will be brought into the Jaguar team now, that same rivalry?
Well, I think there's no such thing as teammates. It's every man for himself, and Justin knows that, and I'm here for me, and I'm not going to pump anyone else's tyres up in the pit lane. So game on.
So Justin Wilson, game on at Jaguar for the rest of the season. That is a done deal. There's speculation, though, that Juan Pablo Montoya could be on his way from Williams. Not for a while, though.
Frank, a lot of our viewers will have read some stuff about Juan Pablo Montoya being linked to McLaren. Can you enlighten them as to the situation?
Certainly. Juan has a contract with this company until the end of 2004. After that, it's an open market. We certainly would love to see Juan stay with us forever. Superb driver. It's an open market, I repeat. Other teams, notably McLaren, we think, are after him. Time will tell.
He says that he's talking to you about the deal at the moment. Is there any reason, if the car's not competitive and he is on pole position, that he would ever want to leave?
Well, humans always tend to think the grass is greener somewhere else. But I just couldn't make any further comment, truthfully. I don't know how he's going to jump.
Let's turn to the race today. It's a crucial race. Do you see this as Williams' Drivers' Championship in microcosm in this single race?
That's probably accurate, short of endless catastrophe from the next race on for Ferrari, which is most unlikely. It is a very critical race for us in terms of drivers, and pretty much equally so in terms of Constructors' Championship.
Well, Frank, we're having a brief word with you later on, but for now, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Juan Pablo Montoya not going there for a while anyway, but we will be, because when you rejoin us at Hockenheim, we'll be putting the McLaren Mercedes team under the microscope. There's team principal Ron Dennis, a self-confessed tidiness fanatic.
It all stems from my mother. My mother was from Yorkshire, and she was obsessed about the house, keeping it clean and everything. The last noise I used to hear going to sleep was often the vacuum cleaner. My mother would clean before she went to bed, so it was, and some of that obsession rubbed off.
And access all areas mean the ITV F1 cameras follow David Coulthard's every move. And after the break, McLaren's third driver, Alexander Wurz, will be joining us right here in the studio. With us at frying Hockenheim, gearing up for the German Grand Prix. It is race 12 of 16. Delighted to welcome Alexander Wurzer to the studio. Hi, Alex. What about this heat? I watched the Formula 3000 race yesterday. One or two of the drivers were carried out of their cars. Are the F1 boys a bit worried about it?
Well, I have to say it's more that the youngsters have to be worried about it because, you know, some of them maybe jump into Formula 1 quite soon and they really need to get their act together in terms of fitness. Because I think most of the F1 drivers are pretty well prepared. You know, we have the drink bottles and every team has trainers and physiotherapists. But of course, it's going to be a real tough race, especially today when the race is going to be so charging throughout the race. I think they really need to concentrate to get it right.
46 degrees on the track at the moment. It'll be even warmer in 40 minutes' time.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot race, not even on the circuit or in the air. It's going to be a charging race throughout the entire laps distance because it's a pretty close call on the strategy, and you know, Formula 1 is as close as it never was before, so it's really going to be hot out there.
Okay, we're going to talk about the strategy with you in a moment, but now we can look at the place where they actually work out the strategy. The Mercedes headquarters at Stuttgart, about an hour's drive away, and thousands of their employees are here. In fact, Alex, you're going to move on and talk to them during the race, aren't you? I think do a bit of commentary for them. McLaren with Raikkonen and Coulthard 5th and 10th on the grid, but that hub of their Grand Prix weekend is here on site. It is the McLaren Communications Centre.
It's an early start for the 18-strong catering team. There's as much attention paid to Friday's breakfast as there is to every other part of the communications centre.
We probably feed about 200 a day, 250, depends. This weekend, Germany obviously is one of our biggest races of the year, so I reckon we'll be doing 250 throughout the day. The whole atmosphere for working is really buzzy, it's really trendy, it's really jolly.
One of the pet hates I have is to go back to the company on a Monday morning and have all the cumulative paperwork that's come on the Thursday afternoon and Friday. So what I do is I have it all electronically sent here, and with the 1 hour practice on Friday, sitting at 11 o'clock, I'm able to work through Thursday evening and the rest of Friday and actually function as if I'm sat in England.
Hi, this is Kimmy and this is my room.
Even out of the shower, F1 imagery is everywhere. Rain lights, engine valves, even air filters. It's no wonder motor racing people feel at home.
This communication centre was the first of its kind, so after the first year we did some winter modifications, and it's proved to work very well this year. With our own generator on board, the power is all taken care of. I just require the water supply for the kitchens and the bathrooms, and the telephone lines, of course, to help communicate back to the factory.
Well, good morning, it's Mark here reporting from Hockenheim, and the first session has taken place.
This is the luxurious private sanctum for the team's biggest hitting guests. But even the workers are included in this 5-star service.
This is what we do for the engineers on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday afternoon and Sunday. We tend to try and want to give them some special treats.
The action never stops. The evening brings a dinner for 40 sponsors. Even the drivers play their part.
You fear the guys that you're basically going to be racing with.
So that was me just spending part of my evening talking to some of the sponsors and Sonax, and now I'm all clear. So head back to my room and relax and prepare for tomorrow. Make sure I don't walk into the glass.
Astonishing facility, that, Alex, isn't it? How important is that to you personally?
No, I have to say first, it's really interesting watching ITV, so a little bit of advertisement, because I didn't know that this filters and engine valves and it's all with the system. So very impressive feature.
We've taught you that then.
Yes, but no, I have to say it's a very nice motorhome for us, because we've got everything. You know, if the driver wants to check his emails, you're quickly online, and we have our little room where you can relax, and that's all very important, because the world in Formula 1 is quite stressful, so you have a little bit place to hide. Yeah.
What a contrast to the rough and ready way that people used to go motor racing, Tony.
Well, like when I used to be involved with McLaren many years ago, we used to have tea in the back of the truck. There were no motorhomes. Then we have a barbecue after the race. Long time ago, of course.
OK, well, a chance now to see a very revealing side to the character of McLaren team boss Ron Dennis en route to Germany on his private jet. We talked first of all about the very special relationship he formed with the double world champion, Mika Häkkinen.
If someone injures themselves in your racing cars, it's always bad. It's happened rarely in McLaren. This time, it was a near fatal accident. And when you sit for a couple of days by someone's bedside and you see them fighting for life, and then you see how hard he fought to recover, how hard he worked to get in the racing car, and how well he did, 2 world championships, you can't have the same relationship with that individual that you have with another driver. It's just different. It doesn't give him an advantage. It's just a sort of emotional, an emotional thing. And you just, you know, it's like going through the whole traumatic experience firsthand.
It's very difficult for people to envisage McLaren without Ron Dennis. Can you envisage it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, part of the remaining ambitions that I have is to sit somewhere on a beach or on a boat somewhere and watch McLaren win on television. I mean, the thought of being alive and seeing McLaren failing is very, you know, very painful. And I think you're a fool if you try and make yourself the book. You know, you've got to have the desire and the ambition to be a chapter. And the best chapter. But if you try to be the book, meaning just working to the point at which you are too old to run the business, then your business will suffer. So I'm 56 years old myself. I have obviously with my wife, a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 15-year-old. So I feel that, you know, if they're faced with having a slightly more mature dad than some of the other kids, I have to compensate. And what I try to do, although it's a bit hammy, I really do try to give them, you know, the quality time that sometimes it's called in America. I really try to make myself very attentive. It doesn't require an effort because I'm passionate about the family, but it is there in the back of my mind. I've got to try a bit harder because I am, you know, 12 hours a day at work.
You talk about your attention to detail, and you love things to be absolutely spotless, absolutely clean and neat and tidy. Do you ever sort of have a little giggle at yourself?
I'm a sad character, really. How my wife puts up with me, let alone with my business colleagues, I just don't know. I'm a straightener. I have a clean desk policy. I'll walk into a house if there's no one around. It might not be. I'll be straightening pictures on the wall and things like that. Crooked pictures just drive me absolutely bonkers, you know. And, you know, my wife will look at me sometimes as if I'm from Planet Zog. You know, we'll be having a dinner party or we'll be sat in a lounge or something. I'll get up and subconsciously go and straighten the picture, sit down again. She looks at me as if I'm, you know, bonkers. But hopefully I have some qualities which make up for it.
No crooked pictures around your caravan then, presumably?
Well, I just thought when I invite Ron the next time to my house, I'm going to make all the pictures offset, and then film him doing it back straight.
Does it surprise you a bit to hear him there talking about lying on a beach and watching McLaren winning on television in 3 years' time?
In a way, yes, because I know how much effort and how much emotions he has with his company and with the factory. But on the other side, I think it's a real sign of his strengths that he says, you know, every individual can be replaced and the whole structure should work on. And I think that's part of the long successful story of McLaren, that he built it up since many years, that whenever one specific person is going, the whole thing is still working and people just move up. And I think he done very well there, and it doesn't surprise me from that point of view.
From a personal point of view, I think it's 3 years since you drove in your last Grand Prix. How much longer are you going to be satisfied being a third driver?
Well, I mean, no question, fire is burning as never before. And when you're out of Formula 1 for the time I'm being, it's pretty hard, and you realize how special it is to be one of these 28 drivers. And I'm fighting hard to go back. situation is a little bit complicated. First of all, the driver market is very complicated behind the scenes at the moment, but it looks good for me. On the other side, I have a very long time contract and relationship with McLaren Mercedes, and therefore I have to play it back into the hands of Ron and Martin and Professor Hubert, because they obviously have the contractual right on me. So I said quite a lot, and it's not easy, but I want to go racing for sure.
You want to go racing again. We've got an email for you. This one is for you, Alex. It comes from Claire Stokes from Stafford, and she wants to know which of the remaining circuits, Hockenheim here, Budapest, Monza, Indianapolis and Suzuka, which would do McLaren as a team prefer?
Well, it's a tough question. I have to make sure as a test driver that we fit on all the circuits. That's my job. But presumably it's going to be Hungary and Indianapolis. Simple reason, because I think that's circuits where we have a tire advantage. And then, you know, these days it's all about tires and how you transform the grip on the circuit. And well, that's the reason why I think these two races are ours.
Thanks, Alex. We have another question. It comes from Graham Chalice, who lives at Charmouth in Dorset. And from the outside, says Graham, McLaren seem like a cold and clinical team. Is this true? Here's the answer from test driver Pedro de la Rosa.
Well, Graham, let me tell you you're wrong. I also thought the same when I came to McLaren, but the atmosphere in the team and how they've treated me since I joined is completely different. I would say it's probably the warmest team I've ever been in Formula One, and the image McLaren Mercedes has is completely different from what we experience inside. The test team is also a bunch of very nice people that work very hard, and they obviously have treated me like one of the drivers very, very nicely.
Thank you, Pedro. Good questions. We always appreciate them. Send them to the ITV F1 website and we'll do our best to respond after the German Grand Prix. And by the way, Louise is there for you this Wednesday lunchtime. Here's the answer to the Silverstone competition. We asked you who won last year's British Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher is the answer. And our winner, Mr. Kerry Wilcoxon from Walton-on-Thames in Surrey. And the helmet signed by Toyota drivers Cristiano D'Amata and Olivier Panis is coming your way. So now that David Coulthard interview. David, one of the drivers who stays in his own motorhome at most of the European races, and he's in pretty good company, as Louise Goodman discovered.
There's a little gang of you, yourself, Jacques and Jensen, who always sort of camp together at these races. Do you ever get together in the evenings and chat through the day, or do you very much keep to yourselves?
No, Jensen popped by the other night. Jack just stuck his head in after quali. You know, it varies. Sometimes we've got a girlfriends here, sometimes not. And that will obviously, you know, mean whether we spend more time with each other or less.
To me, you are sort of smooth and efficient on the outside, but there's a kind of a naughty, playful side to you as well, which is very much the impression I get with the team. Is that a fair assumption for both of you and the team?
I totally relate to the way Ron and Norbert run the organisation, because at the end of the day it is a serious business. There's a large amount of money invested in trying to get racing cars to go around the track as quickly as possible. There's a time to be serious, and definitely when cameras roll and when I'm in press conference, I'm more serious than I would tend to be in the rest of my life, because I have to consider what I'm going to say, because loose words can you know, give the wrong impression or create a problem for the team. You know the way we all are when the cameras aren't rolling. But we can't be like that when a camera. I defy anyone to be entirely natural when a camera's running.
One of the big talking points this weekend obviously has been the contractual situation with yourself and Kimi. What's the situation there? What can you tell us?
Well, I have a contract with McLaren, and you know, as has been said consistently by the team, and in the coming weeks then there'll be an announcement. But it's inevitable that there will be rumours, some of which will be true and some will just be pure speculation.
How much of a distraction is it? Because obviously your job here is to go racing.
Yeah, of course it's a distraction, because you're having to answer questions on it repeatedly, the same question, and you give the same answer every time. Anything that you have to repeat, you know, if we remember back to our childhood, you know, you only really needed to be told once by your mother, and that was enough. But in this business, you know, you keep asking and you have to keep explaining the same thing over and over. But you know, that's not the reason why I qualified 10th. What's been your overriding feeling when you look back over this season? Well, it's been one of frustration, largely due to qualifying out of position. You know, my race pace has always been very good. Practice pace most of the time has been pretty good. There's been more often than not poor qualifying performances, and that puts you in a position where you compromise for the rest of the weekend. And you know, I've obviously had to overtake a few people along the way. There's been some strong races, you know, obviously more so at the beginning of the year.
Is it immensely frustrating to see that sort of dripping away from you?
Of course it is, you know, and it's energy sapping, and it's all the things that you can imagine that go with you know, a situation not unfolding the way you'd like it to. You've just got to deal with it, and as you see people growing around you in confidence, and your competitors growing in confidence, you've got to try and somehow get over that hurdle. And there's still a few opportunities this year to do that, and obviously then it's a case of focusing on the coming year. I have the ability, I have the speed, having a difficult season this year, and I have to focus obviously on the qualifying, but I will get on top of it and I will win Grand Prix again.
I guess, Alex, you're in a rather awkward position because you'd love to be driving that car, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it's no news to David since 3 years. But I have to really say, David he said it, he has the speed, he has the talent. He's one of the best drivers out there. The problem for him is that every 2 weeks you're measured and charged by millions and millions of viewers and the press. And obviously, I mean, he can do that. And I think he's one of the best drivers.
Yeah. Do you think the fact that Kimi Räikkönen has been doing so well this season has put extra strain on David?
No, I don't think so. I think actually that's the thing you have to look up to, and you say, okay, your teammate is doing that and this better. In terms of race speed, David mentioned there's no difference. It's just a single lap qualifying, which is a pretty difficult situation. But I mean, there's just more to a team driver than just doing a single lap qualifying. You have to help the team in terms of development, and David is extremely good there, and you have to do so many other things. So I think it's a little bit tough for David and sometimes a bit unfair.
Yeah, well, it's tough and a bit unfair. And David's saying actually it's impossible to relax and be totally natural when the camera is on him. We'll just have a little look at this, the other side of his character, really. Here he is pulling in after a practice session earlier in the meeting here at Hockenheim, and just one thing is on his mind. Is he going for a debrief of the engineers? No, he's ignoring all of them because David Coulthard has got a very pressing appointment.
Waiting for the toilet. Most important thing you do after a session? I was just about to have a pee in the sink, but I guess I can't do that now you're here. Actually, I think this is Kimi's petrol.
So, I don't know what he's going to do to Kimi Räikkönen's petrol there, but well, there comes Pedro de la Rosa, and he obviously has to test in every area for the McLarens, does he, Pedro?
Yeah, the funny thing is I met David on the toilet at my first Formula 1 test, and we were standing next to each other. Maybe it's too much, and he said, how are you doing? And I felt really honored that like a star like David talks to me.
I knew you'd drag the show down.
Listen, before you go, Alex, what chance do the McLarens have in the German Grand Prix?
Okay, that's back to serious life. Very tough today. I mean, we're obviously racing against Ferrari, because I think, to be fair, Williams is just on their own base. They will be very strong. The only chance is that they are actually hard on the tires, and with the heat and this aggressive surface, the only hope I have is that they overstress the rear tires, but they've been so strong in the free practice. So I think that they are the favorites. We could be the runner-up to them.
Good. Okay, thank you very much indeed for being with us, and enjoy your spell working and keep everybody involved here at Hockenheim. You're going to be talking to thousands of people, aren't you? Thanks, Alex. Thanks for being with us. Okay, so both Renaults are in the top 10. Jarno Trulli starting 4th, Fernando Alonso 8th. Another very encouraging weekend for Flavio Briatore's team. Test driver Alan McNish now. He is with Ted Kravitz.
Yes, Jim, you join us down here where all the action is. Alan, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and say that Jarno Trulli hasn't got a prayer of finishing 4th this afternoon. What do you think?
I actually think he's got a prayer of finishing 3rd. The Williams, in my opinion, are probably in the strong position, and then after that it's between Jarno and the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. But I certainly think 4th is a real possibility, but 3rd's where we're looking at.
He's been going quite well, but Fernando's been off the pace a bit recently, hasn't he? What's going on there?
Fernando's been a bit stronger in the races, but Jarno, since he was reconfirmed for next year, has been a lot stronger in qualifying. But, you know, they ebb and flow of it a little bit. The thing is that both are in the top 8, both are competitive in race trim, and we're looking forward to the afternoon.
Let's talk strategy briefly. 2 stops really the option here. 3, what's the problem with 3? You tell me.
length of the pit lane, basically. It takes a bit too long to come in, because you've got to remember that there is a limit in the pit lane for speed, and so therefore the trundling down that, and that takes a long time. And so that's really the big thing. But tyres are the main issue today, with the temperature and the traction and the struggling through the infield section.
Absolutely, and it looks like Rubens is going to have to stop three stop times, no matter what.
And we reckon that that's going to be the case. Michael's the stronger of the two Ferraris in race trim, Rubens in qualifying.
Thanks very much, Alan.
Yes, our thanks to Alan McNish, and the temperature going up all the time. Trust me, it is absolutely roasting. It's going to be close to 50 degrees down there. BAR, Jensen Button had a bit of a poor time in qualifying. Villeneuve did a little better here, and Tony's got quite a decent record around Hockenheim, Jacques Villeneuve.
Yeah, 2 years ago he finished in third place. He did very well around here when he drove for Williams. But what they've done is they were using old tyres during some of the practice sessions and the qualifying, in the hope that the harder tyre that they're going to use during the race will get them through and be consistent during the race. That's the card that they're playing. And there's Jordan as well, there's Gary Anderson talking to Ralph Furman. And they had problems similarly with oversteer. They're also on the Bridgestones, but they've got this upgraded Ford engine. And Fisichella, his teammate, was slightly happier with the balance of his car. So maybe, just maybe, we could get a World Championship point here today, and boy, do they need it.
Absolutely. Just to remind us how this place has changed, people turning on saying, where are those big flat-out sprints through the forest gone?
Well, of course, as far as I'm concerned, it's been neutered. It's been cut in half, so the long, flat-out sections out into the forest, punctuated only by chicanes, have been redesigned by Hermann Tilke, the German designer, into this more compact circuit. The crowds love it. It had good racing last year.
A lot of red in the crowd, bit of red for us now. Rubens Barrichello and Louise.
Rubens, very fetching outfit.
It's to cool my ears. People have been talking so much that I have to cool my ears.
Heat's going to be a big problem today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, even because I don't think we were expecting this heat. I never saw Hockenheim this hot. We have seen some good temperatures here, but not like 35 degrees. So we're in the middle of the summer in Brazil, which is okay, but in the car it's going to be suffering the whole time.
You were the hero of Silverstone. Very briefly, can you do it again today?
I hope so. It's not overtaking today is not going to be very easy. I'm not saying that it was easy in Silverstone, but I think it's going to be tougher because the tires are going to be suffering more.
Thanks, Rubens. Good luck.
Yes, good luck to Rubens Barrichello. Race of his career at Silverstone, and he's a very, very confident guy. He says he's on the right Bridgestone tyres for the race, Tony, and there's going to be a lot spoken. Martin Brundle and James Allen will be talking a lot about the tyre degradation here.
Yeah, it is a big question, and as Martin said earlier, there is the possibility that the Michelins will drop off for a while they degrade. Pierre Dupasquier of Michelin says that won't be the case. We're very confident in the tyre situation. You're talking about track temperatures now getting up near to 55 degrees as the temperatures are still climbing. So it's an extreme test for the tyres, for the drivers, for the car. But Rubens Barrichello, for me, just did a brilliant job at Silverstone. That was a vital result for Ferrari for putting them back on track for this huge attack that's been coming from Williams and, of course, the consistent threat from McLaren.
Okay, Fernando Alonso, watch for him starting fast. Let's go down there to the grid, and I think Martin Brundle's looking to get among the Brits down the back. On you go, Martin.
Hello, Jim. Yes, and welcome everybody to the grid. I don't know what they're all cheering for. Something happening up the front, clearly. But a good day for the German Grand Prix. Look at this incredible crowd. And people in that grandstand are so lucky. The sun is beating down. It's like standing in front of a big industrial heater down here. Just talking to one of the Jordan mechanics over there. 54 degrees centigrade, the surface temperature at the moment, and rising. It's going to be very tough for the drivers today, but it's not a classic era for British Grand Prix drivers. They're all in the second half of the field. Coulthard up there in 10th place, and Justin Wilson in the Jaguar. Justin, how's it feeling? Is it a different story to be with Jaguar rather than Minardi?
Yeah, obviously it's very different. The main thing is getting used to it and seeing what the car's like on more fuel. Friday went very well. Yesterday was a little bit disappointing. Overcooked it in the last sector, so we'll see what we can do from here. But
the pressure on you, the expectation standing here on the grid is do you feel it's significantly different?
At the minute, no, because this is the first race. I've got to see what I can do. But hopefully I can do quite well, and then the next race I will be expecting more.
And you're being a blinding starter in the Minardis, which are actually just back there a little bit. Are you going to be having a go on the first lap?
I'd like to.
All right, good luck. And next door to Justin on the grid is Jenson Button. Don't know if they're just sticking the air plugs into Jenson. And quick word, gents, before you get in. Wicked qualifying for you. A lot of work to do this afternoon.
Yeah, a lot of work. You know, I've got to get out of this rhythm of being at the back of the grid for the races, but it should be a lot of fun, I think, today.
And tyres, what can you tell us about tyres? Are we going to see any blistering? It's 54 at the moment, the track temperature.
I think we'll be okay. You know, I think hopefully we've chosen the right tyre, and you should see us moving up.
What will make you happy? A couple of World Championship points, is it achievable?
Yeah, more than one this time, definitely.
All right, good luck. Sorry to interrupt the process. And Ralph Furman was also standing around here. So they're in the three of them together, three Brits. Let's hope they don't run into each other and make it an appalling weekend. Ralph, sorry to interrupt the process. We saw you in qualifying quite a long way behind Fisichella. I assume then you're running more fuel, or was it just a bad lap, or what?
We had lots of oversteer. You know, in the warm-up the car was good, then we had massive oversteer, not sure why. And the qualifying lap, you know, carrying a little bit more, but nothing really. So, you know, we should have really been further up.
Yeah, Fisichella then, he's way down there. Is he on a completely different strategy?
No, on the same strategy, but he's on the hard tyre, I'm on the soft one, and maybe that had a part to play with the track temperature going up, but only time will tell in the race.
And I bet you wish you didn't have the soft tyre now, didn't you, with these kind of conditions?
Yeah, it's not a cloud in sight, is there? And it's getting hotter and hotter. It's going to be a long, hard race. But
what have you been able to do to get ready for this kind of heat and the pressure on you this afternoon? What's been the process?
Really drinking lots of water and trying to stay in the cool as long as possible. And you know, they're all hard races, and you know, you've got to concentrate on doing every lap as best you can.
Try and explain to our viewers back. There's a few million people here wondering just what it is like standing here on this piece of tarmac, 67 laps ahead of you. This is incredible heat, isn't it? Well, you know, are you trying to disregard that, or are you just trying to cope with it, or are you thinking this is going to be tough?
No, look, it's going to be a hard race. You can actually feel the heat of the track coming through your shoes. It's incredible. You know, with the fans here, it's great, but it's a long, hard race, and I think the tyres are going to be the biggest problem. It's going to be probably lots of oversteer, and if you don't get as much oversteer, you're going to end up with a good result.
All right, good luck. We need some British points today. Well, it's going to be tough. We've got fierce action at the front. It's going to be all about tyre blistering and tyre wear through the race. Back to you in the studio, Jim.
Thank you, Martin. BMW at home, but Williams yearning for a big away win. Nicolas Chiesa late on the grid for his first Formula One race. The track temperature is around 50 degrees. It is absolutely boiling. Olivier Panis looking for a good one in the Toyota. Whatever you do, don't go away, because the German Grand Prix is coming right up.
The race on ITV, sponsored by Toyota.